Good morning, beautiful human beings. So wonderful to have this time with you here today. If you're watching this live, we're in August of, well, are we? Yes, we are, just of 2024. And this is a pretty extraordinary astrological time, both intense and dark, as we can see in the world, and also the flip side of that, the incredible opportunity for growth. In fact, this month in Vedic astrology is said to be especially auspicious when it comes to practice. And this day today is a day in the Vedic calendar where we honor our ancestors. And that's twofold for me when we speak of honoring our ancestors. It's honoring all of the good traits, the love, the connection, and it's also honoring the challenges and the negative traits and learning to find that the capacity within to identify the helpful and unhelpful karmic patterns that we've inherited and to begin to peel away from the unhelpful ones and keep creating more and more supportive habits that take the place of some of the old reactive ancestral patterns. So I'm just going to check in and make sure you guys can all hear me here. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Thank you, Kyuji. Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. Great. I'm so glad. Just going to grab myself another cushion so I'm a little bit higher. Oh, that feels better. That feels better. All right, so couple of things. We're going to do a little practice first, practice to rejuvenate the mind, to build clarity and rejuvenate the mind. Then I want to talk a little bit about this ancestral karmic pattern and working with what we call in Kundalini Yoga the three minds, the negative, the positive, and the neutral, so that we can begin to very clearly be on that path of reinforcing the positive and the helpful patterns and starting to attenuate the non-helpful ones. Okay, so if you guys are game, we're going to drop into an 11-minute practice here and just set the stage for everything that is to come. So first, getting yourself nice and settled. I'm just looking for one more thing, my end here. So get yourself settled, coming up, sitting nice and tall. And we're going to do this practice, which has a stroke breath, 8 strokes in through the nose and 8 strokes out through the nose. So it's inhaling 8 and exhaling 8. You have your right palm up and your right palm down and your left palm up. I'm going to ground us in a moment, and I'll ground myself as well. One of those mornings where everything in my mind is working a little bit faster than my capacity to keep up with it. So this practice will also help me come into a good grounded state. Great. So let's come sitting up nice and tall, ground through your sit bones. Close your eyes and begin to breathe deeply. And first of all, recognizing this very moment. When you breathe deeply, just by the nature of what it is you're doing, as you're consciously breathing, you've brought your mind in to conscious contact with your body. And you've made yourself aware of your breath. So you move into the seat, if you like, of awareness. So taking deep breaths. See if you can access the lower lungs, mid lungs, upper lungs on your inhale. And then as you exhale, that feeling of all four sides of the body contracting in, the lower belly lifting at the end of the breath. Feel where the diaphragm is. As we inhale, it flattens. There's that sense of air being drawn down and then expanding. And when we exhale, there's a sense of the diaphragm relaxing and that pushing up from the center of the body up and out. And if there's anything that's been bothering you today, yesterday, this week, any lingering feeling that you've been dragging around, just invite that feeling to step aside. Or really maybe a better way of saying that, make space for it. And we honor this as a process, actually, of receiving all the disparate parts of ourselves. And then setting an intention. As we move into this practice portion, into this investigation of the three minds, what's your intention within this? Presence, openness, awakening a deeper center, deeper seat within self. And let's tune in with Om Namo Gurudev Namo, rubbing your palms together, inhaling. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Inhaling. And exhale. And let's move our energy here into an enlivened state. So we'll stay seated, but right palm is down, left palm is up. And we're taking 8 sniffs in. And as we do, we're moving the hands with a little bit of a jerky motion, okay? Up and down. Right palm is down, left palm is up. And we'll go for 3 minutes, then we'll switch, and then we'll go back to the original for 3 minutes. And let's just go on a little bit of a journey here with the breath. 8 sniffs in, 8 out, eyes closed, rolled up to the third eye, almost as though you could see a spot slightly in front of your forehead. Here we go, inhaling. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Keep going now, sniffing the breath in and sniffing it out. As you do this, you notice you'll go on a little bit of a journey the longer you do it, the deeper you drop in, the more committed you are to focusing on the breath and opening yourself to this new space, new way of seeing things, higher coherent states. Keep opening to that as you're doing this, tuning yourself as a instrument, tuning yourself to a state of openness, a state of heightened awareness. Keep going. Just change your hands, right palm up, left palm down. Jerking the hands up and down. Turn the hands over one more time. Keep going with the breath. Let's take a deep inhale. Pause your breath, lift your pelvic floor, hold steady, right palm still down, left palm up, eyes closed, rolled at the third eye. Feel your hands, your third eye. Keep your hands as they are as you exhale, and just let yourself get really still, as still as you possibly can be, tuning yourself to the inner space of consciousness, pure consciousness, presence. Feel the space all around you. And tune for a moment and feel all the hearts present in this space right now from all around the world. Through the unified field, we're connecting. We're aware of each other in this moment. Opening to this unseen force that connects in this greater force field. And then placing your hands over your heart, allow a moment for the energy to settle. And as you're ready, release your hands down. Keep your eyes closed though, and let's allow a moment to feel into the power of our ancestry. It's present here in our genetic makeup, in the unique way that we're expressing as a human being, in the color of our eyes, the shape of our face, our nose, hair, all of it. It's been a genetic passing on, generation to generation to generation. And we honor that thread of life from one birth to the next. The lineage of the mothers who have carried us, the mother, the grandmother, the great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother, all the way up through this line. And all the father, grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, going all the way through the line, those who have protected, those who have served that role of father. And we sense all the joys and the challenges that have manifested into certain behaviors passed on down through the generations. Behaviors that arise out of times of great bounty and peace. behaviors that rise out of times of struggle and challenge and famine and wars, behaviors that arise that hold life as precious even in the midst of all that is happening, and behaviors that arise that feel tinged with regret or sadness or overwhelm or not enoughness. And we just sense how, as beings on this planet, we've inherited so much. And we are an alive link in this chain. And can you sense in this moment how, when we unhook from an aspect of the chain that is not serving us, once that link is dissolved, it dissolves all the way through the quantum time, through all those that we've been connected with. And we sense the tenacity of the human spirit. That which keeps us actively seeking to awaken to our own greatness, to awaken to the infinite possibilities that are the gift of the human life. So thank you for joining me for that particular little exploration. I think when we honor our ancestors, it's important to understand what it is that we're honoring. Elizabeth, I know you're here and you work a lot with healing ancestral karmas and just how powerful it is when we do. And understanding that on the subconscious level, really you could say the unconscious level. In other words, when we fall from consciousness, we become a living embodiment of the patterns that live in the subconscious. Because we've lost consciousness. Now we're actively in the unconscious, subconscious, however we want to phrase that, patterns of our ancestry, those that we've learned. Some we've learned and we've really worked hard at, and others, that we learned either directly from our parents and communities and cultures, or as a result of their influence, right? And it tends to be when we're triggered that those reactive patterns come up, and we all have them. And it's really good to know how to recognize them so that you can, even if you can't pull yourself out immediately, you can note it and be like, oh, I'm in that reactive pattern. So tuning in to know, what are those for you? What are those for you? Some of us isolate. We try to cut ourselves off from those around us. And that's a learned pattern that lives and is embedded, if you like, in the negative mind. The negative mind is the protective mind. Oh, I need to protect myself in this moment. So I'm going to cut myself off from those around me. Another aspect of that is a passive aggression. Oh, I'm going to show them. I'm going to isolate myself from them. And, when we get caught in this kind of pattern, or whatever your version is, maybe it's an anger, maybe it's an overreactive, maybe it's a lash out. When we get caught in this pattern, which has its roots in the idea of self-protection, we just know then that whatever we're emitting in the moment, that's what we're drawing to us. So as we activate ourselves in any of these old unconscious patterns, we start to emit the vibrational frequency of that. And whatever we focus on, whatever we're energetically, emotionally emitting, that is our broadcasting signal. And so to recognize that we are the creator of our life. And so the more quickly we can cut that cycle and remember that it's a choice we're making. It's a choice we're making. And that's sometimes the hardest part, because the aspect of us that wants to protect is usually the part of us that feels, well, it's fear, it's insecurity, it's rooted in this desire to protect. So what are we protecting ourselves from in that moment? And what is the fastest way out, so that we understand that it's not that we're looking to walk through life in a state of perfect grace from one moment to the next. Yes, we want to become more graceful, but grace is something that is happening. It happens as we awaken ourselves to the self-responsibility and the choices we're making. So we want to be able to acknowledge, take note, recognize there's a choice, and then take that choice. So I'm just checking in with you all here for a moment. Thank you, Jessica. I love that. Hi, Deborah. Hi, Susie. Hi, Nadine. Oh, hi, Keju. I'm so glad to see you all here. If you have any questions along the line as I'm talking this morning, please do. So let me speak a little bit about so we've seen that the negative mind wants to protect. And it's not always just in the immediate sense of when we walk into a new environment. The negative mind scans and we want to see what, if there's anything we need to be concerned about in the space. It's happening on a subconscious level, whether we're consciously doing it or not. Where we can often get stuck is that the positive mind is the one that is tuning and seeing an opportunity. Maybe you're just walking out in nature and you look up and you see the banana and you're aware, oh, I'd really like to eat the banana. There's that opportunity that's there. Maybe that it's about something in your life that you need to move forward for, or an opportunity that's arisen and your positive mind is like, yes, let's go, let's get it. However, there's an aspect of the positive mind that if caught in the negative mind state, will start to positively reinforce the negative mind state. And that's when we get caught in what we call the vritti samskara chakra, the spinning wheel of the mind that just won't be quiet. It's trying to solve something, trying to solve something, trying to solve something. And the positive mind keeps building the case for the negative mind, and it's trying to solve the riddle. When the positive mind gets enmeshed like that, we really need to do something to pull ourselves out of that state and come back to neutrality, right? That's where these practices are just so very important. And so that's part of some of what we have inherited from our ancestors, different ways that spinning wheel presents itself, and different ways we've set out to preserve our own inner sanctuary because of the circumstances around us. So ultimately, what we're looking to do in our practice is to shift the state, the negative mind state that is holding us hostage. And think about that for a moment. That's ultimately what's happening. We're being held hostage by old emotions, by old ways of dealing with things. so much so that it starts to sap our life force, and it creates a veiling over the luminosity of our own spirit, of our soul. We've veiled it with the intensity of our negative emotional states. And we can see how detrimental that is over time, and how much hopelessness that builds within our whole being. And our worldview, by the way, is everything about us is impacted by that emotional, mental, energetic state. To build the positive mind, we need to build our capacity to be able to see opportunities as they present to us, to be able to see the miracle of life, the one big miracle of life that's happening, just the fact that we are alive, and then all the little signs and signals that tell us that life is paying attention, the greater life, the greater consciousness that is immersed and immersed within all the trees, the birds, the bees, the other human beings, all levels of consciousness. There's this reflective play happening between us and the greater creative consciousness. When we're in our positive mind, we really see the synchronicities. We see the ways that life is directly reflecting our consciousness state. We've thought and felt something, life reflects it to us. We've opened to a new possibility. We've changed our energetic state to vibrate in a different way. Life reflects that to us. And when we're paying attention, we see this way that the greater scope of life is communicating with what's happening within us in any given moment. And that's when life starts to get super exciting. And that's where the power of the positive mind begins to be harnessed in the most extraordinary way. Negative mind is still there in its correct role of guiding the positive mind so that the unnecessary steps are not taken. Risk over risk is not happening. The positive mind can flow through a situation, see what is there that is helpful, and be able to see the things that on the surface may look helpful, but on a deeper level are not. And to see that all so clearly, that's when we're operating from the higher mind. That's what's happening when we're not caught in the old patterns and energies. And again, they could come directly from your ancestry, or they could come from your reaction to your familial background and cultural background. Nonetheless, they're ingrained, habitual, reactive ways of being in a situation where you feel out of control, where you feel judged, where you feel triggered in any way, where you feel let down, where you feel unloved. All the ways that you could look outside of yourself and say, life's not showing up in the way that I want to in this moment, and therefore I'm reacting to it. So I'm going to just chap in and see how you all are doing here right now, because I saw a bunch of things come in. Oh, thank you. Medicine Heart Song. Jill, can I give an extra example of the positive mind running on the negative mind scripts? Yes, self-righteousness is a good one, right? Positive mind jumps in. I mean, this is my perception of positive mind. Is it just that? No. But when we start to create ways to support our own negativity, that's when we've harnessed the positive mind to put like the positive PR spin on our own negativity, and it just entrenches and digs us in more deeply. So that's the challenge, because then it's hard when we're engaged in that way of defending our own negative subpar energetic state, then we lose the opportunity to see a different way through, because now we've enrolled that positive mind into building and defending the character or characteristics of what's happening from the negative mind state. That's one way of looking at it. There's an enmeshment that happens that makes it harder to break free and access the neutral higher mind state, where the positive mind is fluid and it's being drawn to the possibilities that arise. So that's one way I would answer that. Let's see, Susie, you said I had to acknowledge that I was spending way too much time and energy in resentment. Why were all the ancestors dumping this on me to heal? Fortunately, I stopped playing the victim and moved to heal. Wow, I love that. I love that. It can be heavy, can't it? And in so many ways, this generation, the generations that are alive right now have been doing a lot of work. That's not to say there haven't been people through the centuries, and who knows in the golden ages what was happening. But in our more recent, 1,000-year history, there's been a lot of struggle and strife. And as in our current state of development, there weren't the tools necessary or available that could lead us toward liberation, unless you happen to be, on the yogic path, which has been here clearly through thousands of years now. But how many have had access to it? And maybe that's part of what's happening in this information age. We have access to everything now. And with AI coming online, there's an even greater accessibility to information and the understanding of information that may have felt beyond our scope before. So there's a quickening happening. And in that quickening, if we can ride the wave, there's an extraordinary opportunity to free ourselves, to liberate ourselves. And in doing so, liberating that karmic chain, so that it's breaking, dominoes effect all the way back through the generations. Who knows what that does on a subtle level when that happens, Isn't it wild? Who knows what happens? All I know is that there's a call of the soul to keep showing up. There's a call of the soul to not waste this precious life in those emotions, as Susie described, of the resentment or the blame or the shame, whatever those emotions are, because we recognize, well, wait, this is my choice. This is my life. This is the poison I'm dealing up for myself. And I can choose to hold on to it and keep blaming my experience of life on everybody else, or I can take the radical self-responsibility and do the courageous action, next courageous right action that's necessary to liberate myself. For most of us, in so many ways, that requires a level of communication. Is it a level of communication with us? Is it a level of communication with somebody else? Or is it simply a very strong action plan that gives us the systematic way where we step by step lift ourselves up out of the despondency that we've become caught in? So I really salute you there, Susie, for all the work that I know you've been doing for that to happen. And I salute all of you, because you're all doing this work on some level or another. And we just want to keep reminding ourselves, what is the life that we want to create? Who are we really punishing when we get caught in these negative patterns? Because ultimately, if we're feeling an emotion about somebody else, guess who's being affected by that emotion the most? It's you, right? It's me. It's we are making that choice. We are making our own little hell through the choices. And maybe we don't see them as a choice, but it is a choice. And those of us who have eyes to see that it is a choice, well, now we have a different pathway that opens up to us. And we can choose to take the different step. And we can begin to build through the positive mind, we can begin to build a new pathway towards greater freedom. We can start to reinforce these positive ways of being, positive ways of feeling, positive ways of dealing with conflict, positive ways of communication. And so we build this deep reservoir of supportive patterns that when we slip from consciousness, these patterns start to be the ones that respond. When we're triggered, these patterns start to be the ones that respond. And slowly, slowly, just like a garden that begins to be untended, all of these others start to weaken and weaken and weaken. And this is what's said in the Yoga Sutras. They weaken and they continue to weaken. However, there's still the seed potential there until there isn't, right? Until we've dissolved those seeds, consciously dissolved those seeds, or we've had such a quantum leap in our consciousness state that those seeds themselves also dissolve. And then we access the state that the yogis call seedless samadhi. In other words, a state which is that once it comes, never leaves. We can all access, and I know we can all access these states of sublime connection to self, to source, to other, to the experience of the relative of the knowingness of life, of that feeling of just you are one with all that is. We can experience that. And so that's not above any one of us. How long can we experience it? How sustained can we be in that state? And as long as there are seeds there, they're going to keep, and in certain moments, in certain high energy moments, there was the potential for them to sprout again. And this is the beauty of life. This is the beauty of whatever this big cosmic plan is for us all. We just need a little astrology to, happen, the right alignment of this, that, and the other, which is happening on a collective level right now. And and it re-energizes some of the negative patterns. And you can see that happening, and you can see, but this has to happen so that ultimately all those seeds get dissolved. So every day that we catch ourselves and make a different choice when the reactive self wants to reenact an old ancestral pattern, every time we see it and we make a different choice, we are powerfully liberating ourselves, right? And I see this as like having two parallel paths towards evolution. And we need to keep these paths like equally enlivened. There's the pathway of learning how to awaken energy and reach the transcendental mind, where this transcendental mind is not bothered with all the old ancestral stuff. And it's an incredible place to be. And we want to keep building this capacity to reach the transcendent state. And then equally, we want to be building the capacity to see the negative ancestral patterns for what they are and make the conscious choice. Because in doing so, we are weakening this. We're weakening it. And you can see that it's a different flavor than just reaching the transcendental state. Because we know that the way that this mechanism of human being is, we're going to consistently be challenged. Why are we challenged? Because our egoic identity which has a preference of how life shows up, how people perceive us, what opportunities we feel like we're owed, or all of the things that the ego has an attachment to. As long as we are living from the egoic perspective of who we are, we're going to be challenged. And we're challenged exactly in a way that reflects the strongest egoic attachment that we have in the moment. And so as we're challenged in that way, we can see that this challenge is absolutely divinely orchestrated to reveal to us what our egoic enmeshment is in that moment. And if we're paying attention, we can then see, that's where the greatest growth can happen. That's where my liberation lies. I could, in this highly triggered state, work really hard to access the transcendent state. And good, maybe in that transcendent state, I can start to see. As long as I'm not using the transcendent state to avoid, maybe I can start to see what's happening in here and then make the different choice. However we're working it, it's so good to understand that the process of awakening is both. It is the transcendent state that we access, and it is the everyday awareness of how we're walking through life, where we're taking things personally, where we're getting triggered, and starting to see the divine unfolding that life is. It's going to reflect. We're going to get a reflection to us about us so we can transmute the ways that are holding us back. That's the journey that excites me the most. And you know what? When we're in the high trigger point, it can be so hard to take the action toward liberation because the enmeshment can feel so thick. There's such a desire to hold on to the blame or shame as opposed to step out and choose the different way. And that's where the continuous, consistent practice is going to keep helping us. We're going to be served if we keep continuously practicing, if we keep coming together and sharing of our experience so that we see that what we perceive of as our own imperfections, as our own whatever it is, the malady that makes us special on the negative level or special on the positive level. Once we get into community and we share, we see the alikeness of all of us. We see the human experience and how it unfolds, and we can start to recognize that we were clinging to our own specialness, but we were misidentifying what was special about us. We were misidentifying and therefore getting caught in the victim or getting caught in just identifying with the transcendent state and forgetting that we're both the transcendent and the mundane. And it's that movement between one and the other where the real creativity and excitement happens. And so this cultivation of self on a moment by moment daily level is where things get very exciting. Being really radically honest with yourself. It's so important. All right, I'm going to pop down and see what else you guys have shared here. When we rationalize our reactions and put that positive spin on our negativity, we remain stuck. Exactly. what is that thing that wants us stuck? It's the ego. It's the aspect of us that would rather suffer in the known than move out of the unknown. And because the egoic identity, the identity that we've created about ourselves, which is a protective identity in many ways, or it's the identity that others keep reflecting to us, we get hooked onto that. It's fragile. And so when something threatens it, we grip to it. And once we start to walk in a greater relationship with the self within, with the pure consciousness, with that recognition of how interconnected we all are, of ourselves as an aspect of the one creative consciousness. When we start to move our identification towards that understanding, we're less precious about the things that would grip us before. And we can see it for what it is, and we can see it as a misidentification. And we can clearly see it in others, often before we can see it in ourselves. But that gives you a glimpse. You see it in somebody else's behavior and you go, I see what's happening there. And then when we start to turn the lens inward, we can begin to be like, oh, okay, I see it in my behavior too. And so then how can I change that? I am at a point in my life where I'm recognizing the effects of my ancestry, good and not so good. Do I have any advice for someone right at the start of the journey? Wow. I think that anytime we start on a journey like this, if we can really lean into the gratitude portion first and really seeing the strengths, and building that positive relationship with ancestry, because I feel like otherwise many of us can just try to push it and not want to engage with it because some of it can be tricky and challenging. So building a relationship of, tuning into, even if just, on a level, on a subtle level of feeling back into the ancestry and all the different struggles that our ancestors went through. I recently went into a castle in Denmark, which is an old castle, and it happens to hold the crown jewels of Denmark. And I was reflecting as I was in there how the luxury of that day is really not dissimilar to the everyday luxuries that we have today. And it was really interesting to me just to see, they still were bathing in water that was heated up and carried to a room, put into a bowl. They still, it's just the windows are small, the rooms are dark. It's like you look at that and you see the challenges of our ancestors were immense, not to mention all the different famines. It's like even though we face so many global challenges, there's a buffer for many of us. And it's important, I think, that as we look back, we really recognize all the different threads on a collective level as well as an individual level. So there's something. And just the fact that you're on the journey and you're tuning into it now, I think you're going to be intuitively led where you need to go. Wanted specific help. Thank you. You've been connected, Tracy, to RBY for years. Wanted specific help, Ari ancestor. Okay, I'm curious about what that is. Tiffany, a very heavy, debilitating ancestral karma came to a choice point. It caused an impossible chaos in your right heart side, so intense that you had to choose. Grace allowed you to explore expanding beyond. Wow. 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 I just my heart goes out to you, to all of you on this journey. It's quite something when we when we tune in this way, and the intense choices we're making moment by moment. I really thank you for that. Elizabeth, yes, the next courageous step in our evolution and in the evolution of the entire lineage. Yes. Thank you, Susie. Being in tune with the natural world aligns us in the evolutionary process. Exactly. And Nadine, the Sutras course really helped you understand these topics. Oh, I'm so glad. And those of you who didn't do it, we launched it again this year. So if you want to take the Sutras course, please join us. Ignacia, beautiful way of honoring our ancestors is liberating ourselves from the patterns we are loyal to. Ooh, I love that, Ignacia, just the word loyalty and all it infers. Positive loyalty, and then also the loyalty to something that maybe isn't serving, but there's loyalty there anyway. Wow, I love that. We believe ourselves and we liberate the one that came. We liberate ourselves and we liberate the ones that came before. Ignacia says, I had the gift of seeing clearly what I was carrying and being loyal to, but it wasn't serving for my liberation. With gratitude, I let go and constantly do as it shows up in multiple ways. And isn't that interesting? Exactly. When a certain pattern has been like a core identification for a long time, there's going to be echoes of it as we're letting it go, and we keep letting it go, and we keep letting it go until that no longer remains. And that's just a reminder to us, right, of the process. It's a continual process until it's not. It's like healing. It's a process until that which you were healing feels like it's dissolved and it's shifted, it's shape shifted, and then there's something else. I just love that. I love that, Jessica. Thank you for sharing along the line here. And Kathleen, I had to acknowledge what had happened and stop hiding behind your anger. Then I had to admit I'd become my own perpetrator and was caught. I had to make a different choice. The freedom is real. Any of those of you who may be caught momentarily or not so momentarily in that grip, just to recognize, she says, I had to make a different choice. The freedom is real from that choice. Thank you for sharing that. The honest resilience building. Yes, Tiffany, exactly. That's when we build such a deep level of self-trust, because we start to say the things that need to be said. We take the step that needs to be made, and we start to have faith in our own being, have faith in what we know to be true versus the illusory veils of the egoic identities. I love that. Oh, the Kriya name that we did this morning is the Kriya, let me see, to fight brain fatigue. So it energizes the brain and helps to harmonize your energy in this whole area. Tiffany, what has been happening has been creating a deep self-respect and dignity, which opens me to recognize this in all. Ooh, gosh, I love that, Tiffany. I love it. We can begin to become compassionate on a different level. You know how easy it can be to be triggered by somebody who is not self-accountable, who hasn't learned yet that it's okay to own up to things that one has done, or to take ownership of anything when it comes to emotions or actions that may have been out of integrity. It can be so, we can see so clearly often when somebody is just not yet able to become self-accountable. And the compassion that we can begin to build for somebody's predicament in that they're not able to yet see. It's very different than the judgment that we've culturally learned to label somebody. Oh, that person who's not able to be accountable for having done, having taken actions or said things that were knowingly incorrect. We could call that person a liar and label them. That person's a liar. Or we could say that person has shared some untruths. It's very different, isn't it? And then if we haven't just labeled them as something, well, now we're able to maybe have compassion. Because they're not just a liar. They're many things, and they're truthful in many ways as well, but we've just labeled them in our mind a liar because they said something that was untruthful. And so we start to see the ways that we build our capacity for compassion for the human condition when we're on this journey, because we can see and we can recognize where our judgments are creating big separation, and where we're judgmental in the face of somebody who is taking an action when they're just not able to see. And maybe they are able to see, but to see what they're doing, but maybe they're just not able to see a bigger picture and to be accountable for it, right? There's so many dimensions to that. So anyway, not wanting to get off topic so much there, but is it? Because it's all about the way we're reacting to life, to other people, the way we're working on becoming more accountable for ourselves, becoming more compassionate toward ourselves, recognizing that we're not perfect and we'll keep making mistakes. And the more quickly we correct our mistake, the less of a shadow we're leaving. So Kathleen, speaking to Polly there, it helps to remember they are lost in unconsciousness and are learning their own lessons that have nothing to do with me. Mind my business. Yes, I love that. Exactly. Northern Lights, your handle here. Are there specific physical kriyas to heal and celebrate ancestral samskaras? Yes, there are specific kriyas. I think I have a couple on Glow that are specific to healing and celebrating ancestral samskaras. And I think that so much of this is ultimately being able to hold that within yourself, in the recognition, you in the conscious recognition of your ancestors has a healing power. You in the eternal, ever-present now, having a full recognition is sending a ripple out, right? The more present you are, the more whole your energy as you're paying attention, whatever you're paying attention to has a profound ripple. If you're caught in the ancestral pattern, you're acting it out with your full force, it's rippling back into the field and that chain. If you're fully coherent, connected, elevated in your energy, and you're in a state of gratitude, remembrance, honoring, that's having a ripple into the field. So we recognize that on that level as well. And hearts, I love that they don't know how it's safe to be accountable or incorrect. Exactly. People usually cling to their lies if they don't know that it's safe to do something else, or they've learned to be slightly dishonest. They've learned to exhibit dishonest characteristics. They've learned to make some dishonest choices, and they haven't learned that it's okay to be accountable to those, that there's a pathway through. So, yes, exactly, exactly. Feeling judgment. When I notice I am in my judge's chair, I love that, Mike. I choose to step out of it. The visual and the conscious step is helpful for you. Ooh, I like that too. You're in your judge's chair and you're like, okay, I'm going to step out of this place. Great. Love that. I love visuals too. Sometimes when I feel caught in negativity or I get stuck somewhere, I just see like barnacles being pulled off of me, all the different ways that I'm just wanting to create space, liberate, and then move. I really like your visual there. And Tiffany, I've witnessed that we seem to need permission. How powerful that is. Yes, isn't it? And it's also, funnily, I see that often we need permission to grow as well and expand ourselves. Like the mind seeks that permission. An aspect of us is seeking that permission from others to grow and expand. And sometimes we need exactly to have the permission also to release and to let go. So really powerful. Thank you for sharing that, and such a good one for us to reflect on. What are we waiting for? And if we can catch ourselves seeking or needing permission from somebody else, is there a process we can take ourselves through of gaining that for ourselves, or visualizing ourselves receiving that permission from whatever energetic, connection that we can make, or being or person? Can we see them giving that to us? But I think more importantly, can we give it to ourselves? And can we come into conscious community, have a shared conversation around it, and in that, give each other permission? I always think that's an interesting part of the evolutionary process, the giant leaps that we might take in our personal practice. Once we've seen somebody else do something, it gives us permission to do the same. We're like, oh, I can do that. And we can do that then. Or if we see somebody owning up to something and healing, we can see the power of it ourselves. So, wow. Thank you all for going deep into this with me here today. I'd like to do one more thing. If you feel like it, please join me. And if you don't, or you don't have time, we're at an hour and 13 already. So if you pop off, I'm not taking it personally. I'm really recognizing time is a precious thing. And I'm grateful for you all for being here and sharing your light, your luminosity, and sharing in the challenge of what it is to be a human being and to walk consciously through life. I'd like us to do the global sadhana together. If you've already done it today, you can feel free to, pop off or just stay with us anyway. But it's the had, gobinde, had, mukande, had, udare, and we keep going, apare, Haryang Karyang Niname Akame. If you don't know the mantra, don't worry about it. We're going to rub the palms and pump your hands toward one another like a little jerk. Every time we say har, H-A-R, ra, tongue hits the roof of the mouth. Har. It's like a H-A-D, but it's an R, had. Had. Gobinde, had, Mukande. When I say Gobinde, Mukande, really let yourself focus and tune in to all the feeling of really sitting in your radiant essence, the radiance of you that is in the translation of this mantra, that radiance of you that is the quality, these qualities of soul, the essence of your capacity to liberate. That's Gobinde, to liberate. I'm sorry, to sustain is Gobinde. Mukande is to liberate. We all have an aspect to our energy, to our being that is self-sustaining. It's self-sustaining, that one creative consciousness, that one aspect of us. It's also liberating, where it's the aspect of us that is it is free in its essence. It is liberated. And as we attune to it, we become the liberator. It's enlightened. There's an aspect of this pure consciousness that is the essence of absolute wakefulness, of all knowing. It is infinite. It is infinite. It is simultaneously dissolving the unnecessary and constantly creating the new, creating. It's nameless, it's desireless. These are all the qualities that are being shared in the Gobinde Mukande Udare Apare Haryang Karyang Nirname Akame in this mantra. And we have this sadhana practice going in the community portal. And I wanted to do it at this time when we're experiencing the height of it's like the unconsciousness field of the human being splattered through, through the visual places that we are all connecting. We're really feeling that. So let us build this powerful force field of the positive mind to relate to the soul within us and the soul within all beings, that helps us to not make the misidentifications of our egoic self or others' egoic selves, and that we start to recognize the other person as you. We're all coming from this one creative consciousness. There's an enormous amount of healing that each and every one of us is doing in our lives right now as we walk a conscious path. And we recognize not all beings are in a phase of their life or in a situation where that is taking their priority. But if we have the freedom to do it, then let's do it wholeheartedly, because the more we do, the easier it is for everybody else. And that's, to me, a way that we can really serve the greater collective consciousness right now, where we're seeing so much pain, so much fear, so much abuse and ignorance, like avidya, like ignorance in the sense of people clinging to something that they see as truth that is not actually connected to the capital T truth. And we see all the pain and suffering that arises from that. So let's dedicate this to cultivating all these aspects of ourselves, to cultivating our capacity to relate to our sustaining power, our liberating power, our creative power, our destroying, delivering power, that which is nameless in us, that which is formless, but that is all knowing, all pervasive awareness. That's what we're relating to. And the had and the pulsing of the hands is the building of the potency of our own energy. And as it builds and we relate to these words, to this feeling of our own creative consciousness, we become more of that and less of the egoic identifications, more of that. We feed that. So that starts to feed our every waking moment and perception of events as they're arising and choices that we're making. And this is why I wanted us to do this, even though if you're coming into this and it's newer to you, it seems complicated. There's this big mantra that we're doing. And even that in itself can seem exotic. Why just do something so exotic? Can we not use English words? And you can, if you want, as you hold you could go hud, 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 and then just feel in full stillness, feel gratitude, feel love, feel the liberating quality in you, feel the sustaining quality, and so on. Okay? So 11 minutes. Let's dive in. I absolutely love this practice and the power it has to help us through this very challenging time. And let's dedicate this to an awakening through the hearts and minds of all beings, so that we can see clearly the predicament that we are in right now and make conscious choices towards love and healing and uh, and supporting the whole. And may this permeate out to all the leaders of the world, so that these conscious choices begin to be implemented on all levels within our society. Here we go. 11 minutes. Just follow along with my rhythm if you can. Rub your palms so you create the energetic connection. And then have your hands a little apart from one another, and we begin. Had, 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 Gobinde. Had, 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 Mukande. Had, 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 Udare. Had, 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 Apare. Had, 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 Hariyang. Had, 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 Kariyang. Had, 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 Niname. Had, had, Akame. Had, had, Gobinde. Eyes looking down. Had, Mukande. Had, Udare. Had, Apare. Had, Hariyang. Had, Kariyang. Had, Niname. Had, Akame. Had, Gobinde. Had, Mukande. Had, Udare. Had, Apare. Had, Hariyang. Had, Kariyang. Had, Niname. Had, Akame. Had, Gobinde. Had, Mukande. Had, Udare. Had, Apare. Had, Hariyang. Had, Kariyang. Had, Niname. Had, Akame. Had, Gobinde. Had, Mukande. Had, Udare. Had, Apare. Had, Hariyang. Had, Kariyang. Had, Niname. Had, Akame. Had, Gobinde. Had, Mukande. Had, Udare. Had, Apare. Had, Hariyan, Har, 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 Kariyan, Har, 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 Niname, Har, 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 Akame, Har, 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 Gobinde, Har, 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 Mukande, Har, 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 Udare, Har, 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 Apare, Har, 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 Hariyan, Har, 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 Kariyan, Har, 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 Nename, Har, 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 Akame, Har, 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 Gobinde, Har, 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 Mukande, Har, 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 Udare, Har, 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 Apare, Har, 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 Hariyan, Har, 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 Kariyan, Har, 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 Nename, Har, 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 Akame, Har, 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 Gobinde, Har, 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 Mukande, Har, 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 Udare, Har, 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 Apare, Har, 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 Hariyan, Har, 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 Kariyan, Har, 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 Niname, Har, 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 Akame, Har, 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 Gobinde, Har, 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 Mukande, Har, 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 Udare, Har, 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 Apare, Har, 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 Hariyan, Har, 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 Kariyan, Har, 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 Niname, Har, 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 Akame, Har, 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 Gobinde, Har, 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 Mukande, Har, 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 Udare, Har, 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 Apare, Har, 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 Hariyan, Har, 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 Kariyan, Har, 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 Niname, Har, 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 Akame, Har, 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 Gobinde, Har, 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 Mukande, Har, 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 Udare, Har, 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 Apare, Har, 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 Hariyan, Har, 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 Kariyan, Har, 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 Niname, Har, 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 Akame, Har, 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 Gobinde, Har, 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 Mukande, Har, 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 Udare, Har, 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 Apare, Har, 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 Hariyan, Har, 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 Kariyan, Har, 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 Niname, Har, 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 Akame, Har, 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 Gobinde, Har, 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 Mukande, Har, 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 Udare, Har, 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 Apare, Har, 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 Hariyan, Har, 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 Kariyang Har 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 Niname Har 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 Akame Har 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 Gobinde Har 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 Mukande Har 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 Udare Har 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 Apare Har 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 Hariyang Har 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 Kariyang Har 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 Niname Har 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 Akame Har 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 Gobinde Har 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 Mukande Har 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 Udare Har 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 Apare Har 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 Hariyang Har 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 Kariyang Har 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 Niname Har 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 Akame Har 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 Gobinde Har 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 Mukande Har 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 Udare Har 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 Apare Har 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 Hariyang Har 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 Kariyang Har 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 Niname Har 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 Akame Har 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 Gobinde Har 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 Mukande Har 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 Udare Har 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 Apare Har 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 Hariyang Har 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 Kariyang Har 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 Niname Har 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 Akame. Deep inhale. Pause your breath. Be still. Feel your hands. Breath held. Eyes at the third eye. And bring your hands over your heart as you exhale. Deep inhale. Holding. And as you're ready, exhale, release your hands down, palms up. Allow a moment tuning in, feeling the effects of this practice. And opening yourself to this flow of the positive mind. This capacity to take radical action when needed. Capacity to see clearly the real from the unreal. And tune to yourself here as a vibrant being of light. And let's tune to each other, the presence of each other in this unified field of life. All of us connecting in this moment, tuning to light. Tuning ourselves as an instrument for this higher consciousness, this pure consciousness to flow freely. May each and every one of us be an instrument for light, for love. May we see with loving eyes. May we feel with a heart of compassion and courage. May we smell all the divine sense of life all around us. May we hear the sounds of the beautiful resonant sounds of nature that hold us in this connected space. And may we taste the sweetness of life. Bring your hands together. We'll close with a long Satnam, inhaling. Satnam. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me here today. Sending so much love to you. Happy to know you. Oh, thanks, Ryan. So happy you were here. Thank you, Jessica. And those of you who want to find this practice, she's got a link for it in there, the offerings page. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Tiffany. All you guys, thank you for being here. Bless you. Have an incredible rest of your day. Enjoy. Thank you, Patrick. I'm so glad. Yes. Kathleen, Kelly, couple Cynthia. Hello. Jim. Lulu. Thank you, guys. Blessings, and I'll see you very soon. Let's keep up this work of being a conscious, creative, loving human being. See you very soon. Much, much love.